are used for barbecuing meat, you need libun chamur. You need to actually put them through fire and turn them red hot. That's what we learned in our Mishnah in Mesechet Avodah Zarah. And says Rab Amram to Rab Sheshet, so wait a second. Let me turn your attention to a different Mishnah in Shas, in Mesechet Zvachim. In Daf Sadi Zayin, the Gemara there says, the Mishnah in Mesechet Zvachim says, by Kochim, by Korbanot of Kochim, Hashfud v'askela mag'ilan bechamin. Same two items used for barbecuing the meat of kochim. You just put them through hag'ala and they're good to go. In other words, what is the problem? Kochim is not treif, but kochim becomes treif every day. Every korban that we learn about in the Torah has a time frame. And after the time frame passes, it's asur to eat that meat. It becomes notar. Notar is isur doraita. It becomes just like pig, lavdil. Because that's asur doraita, and notar is asur doraita. So for instance, you have basar shlamim, probably the most common korban, and basar shlamim is ne'echal, it's eaten for 2 days and 1 night. So therefore, if today, on Sunday, you shecht a korban shlamim, you have the entire rest of the day, you have the entire night, and then you have the entire next day, and then when it hits the next night, this basar now is considered treif, and you can't eat it. If you have chatat, it's even shorter. You only have leyom v'layla. It's today, and tonight, by tomorrow morning, crack of dawn, is already asur to eat it. It's notar. So therefore, says the Mishnah in Zvachim, we have to come up with a way of how we're going to kosherize the vessels that are coming to contact with kochim. If I made my shvud v'askala, I made roast on top of it, but by basar kochim, now I have the bliot of kochim in my shvut v'askala, on my grill. So my grill is going to become treif by the end of tonight, if it's chatat, by the end of tomorrow day, if it's shlamim. And how do I kosherize it? Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah there, you do hagala and you're good to go. Says Rab Amram, what do you mean you do hagala? You missed the Mishnah in Avodah Zarah daf ayin A. We have to do libun chamur, the Mishnah says, bashfudim ve'askelaot. So say, yeah, it's easy to say it's different. The question is, what's the difference? That's exactly what Rab Amram is asking. So wait a second, how do you put the two Mishnayot together? Our Mishnah says libun. The Mishnah in Zvachim says hagalat. Both of them are talking about traces of taste that is now taref. Seems to be pretty identical to me, says Rab Amram. So Rab Sheshet answers him. He says, Amar le Amram bri, Amram my son, says Rab Sheshet. What's the connection even? What's the comparison? That's like a pretty strong answer. Like you missed the boat. What's the connection between this and that? Hacha hetera bala, hata misura bala. Says Rab Sheshet, over here, in our case, in Avodah Zarah, it is isura bala. Because the first time that this was used was with treif meat from Giulei of de Kochavim. A goy, right, shish kebab, some meat on top of this barbecue, on top of the grill. Over there in the Mikdash, when you are grilling at that moment, what is the meat? Kodesh Kodashim. Kipshuto. Not only is mutar, is the highest level. It's awesome. So that's hetera bala. It's not asur. Later on it becomes isur. Right? So that's what Rav Sheshet answered Ram Avram. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava. Rava says basically, he's scratching his head. So what's the difference? What's the answer even? Amar Rava, sof sof ki kapalit isura kapalit. Rava says, who cares about when the traces of meat were absorbed inside the grill? We don't care about that. We care about right now. Can you use it now? No. Why? Because it's taref inside. How did it become taref? Because there's no tar. The time passed. So now what's inside pig? It's asur. So, I mean, I don't care if a day ago or a day and a half ago, this was Kodesh Kodashim. Right now, it's treif. So this is treif, and this is treif. Who cares how they became treif? So Rava is very baffled with it. So he says Rava, and Rava answers, no. A different answer, not like Rav Sheshet. My Hag'ala, you'll see soon that we're going to come back to Rav Sheshet at the end of our journey again, so just wait for it. But for now, Rava says, let's attempt a different teretz. My Hag'ala nami shtifa umerika. Says Rava, when the Mishnah in Zvachim speaks about Hag'ala, doesn't mean Hag'ala. It means you have to do shtifa umerika. Now, shtifa umerika is pasuk about kochim. It says umorak v'shutaf b'mayim. They has to be washed and cleaned with water. That's in the pasuk. Now, there in the Gemara, same Gemara Sadiza in Mesechet Zvachim, there's a machloket in the Gemara whether shutaf or morak or shutaf b'mayim is a reference to hot versus cold water, or is it rinsing with cold water inside and outside? Which would mean shtifa is from outside, merika is from inside. Or maybe merika is with hot water, like Hagala, and shtifa is afterwards with cold water. But whatever that means, it's necessary for Zvachim. There's no other way about it, because it says it in the Chumash. Right? It has to be morak v'shutaf b'mayim. So Rava is basically saying, well, when it says over there in the Gemara, Hag'ala really just means shtifa umerika. That's what he means. So what is Rava saying? Rava is saying like this. Really, there's no stira, there's no contradiction between the two Mishnayot. And the baseline of the methodology of hechsher is what the Gemara, the Mishnah says in Mesechet Avodah Zarah, that if you have traces of treif, bliot inside the shpudim v'askelaot, inside your grill, you have to do libun. You have to put it through fire, red hot. And that's over here true, and it's true by Zvachim also. If you have basar kochim, bliot av kochim inside your grill, you better put that through fire and make it red hot. So what does the Mishnah say in Zvachim? Says Rava, that's an additional thing. That on top of the fact that you have to do libun, you also have to do shtifa umerika, as it says in the Chumash. So it's not such a massive chidush. It's not talking about the baseline hechsher. It's talking about the additional thing that Zvachim have to have based on the pasuk of umorak v'shutaf b'mayim. That's what Rava says, and he's pretty proud of it because it fits very nicely. Until, of course, Abaye comes. Amar le Abaye, wait a second. You are telling me that when the Mishnah in Mesechet Zvachim says Hagala, which is a very specific term, what's Hagala mean, Rabotai? Bubbling water. I mean, that's as specific as it could get. So you want to tell me that when it says Hagala in the Mishnah, it really doesn't mean Hagala? It just means, rinsing it with water? Is that what it means? Midami, says the Abaye, says the Gemara. Merika v'shtifa besolen. Morak v'shutaf is only with cold water. Right? Now, you have to, of course, understand in parentheses a question that's not going to be discussed in the Gemara. As I just mentioned, if you open the actual Gemara Zvachim Sadizayin and you look inside, you will find that the Gemara has a machloket, as we mentioned, if Shetifa Umerika is one with hot water like Hagala, one with cold, or is both with cold inside and out, right? So that has to be ironed out over here. But says Abaye, at the end of the day, we understand Shetifa Umerika with cold water from outside and inside. That's what it is. But Hagala is Bechamin. Hagala, nobody argues that it's in bubbling water. So you can't say that when the Mishnah specifically says Hagala, it really doesn't mean Hagala. It means cold water rinsing from outside and inside. So Abaye says, your teretz, with all due respect, Rava does not hold. So Abaye gives his own answer. El Amar Abaye. How do you reconcile the stira, the contradiction between our Mishnah here in Avodah Zarah, Tafayin He Amud Bet, and the Mishnah in Mesechet Zvachim Tzadi Zayin? How do you deal with it? That over here it says the Hechsher Kelim is when it's on fire without any liquid, is going to be through libun chamur, and you have to put it through fire until it turns red hot. And over there it just says Hagala. What's the pshat? Yagid alav reo. Says Abaye, these are two complementary mishnayot. You need both of these to understand each one of them. So therefore, in one place you have, in Mishnah Mesechet Avodah Zarah, that you need to do libun. In the other place, Mesechet Zvachim, you have that you need to do Hagala. And what it is coming to tell you is, regardless of whether you're talking about Gi'ule Akum, the treif grill that you just bought online, a second hand, from a goy, or you're talking about the grill in the Beit HaMikdash by Kochim, both of them have a process, two-step process of hechsher. You need to do libun, and you, on top of that, need to do hagala. And of course, I will add to that, it's pashut, in parentheses, that by kochim, you also need morak v'shutaf b'mayim. You also need to rinse it. So you'll have three steps, really, right? But what they share in the process of basic hechsher is, according to Abaye, you do libun and then you do hagala. So that's yagid alav reo. Yagid alav reo means let its friend tell on him. That means I need its friend for him as well. Each one of them, you need the other one. This one says libun to tell you that he needs libun, but he also needs hagala. This one says hagala, he needs hagala, but he also needs libun. So both of them need both. So says the Gemara, that's what Abaye says. Tana hacha libun. Over here in Avodah Zarah it says libun v'hu adin la'hagala. It needs also hagala. Tana hatam in Zvachim it says hagala v'hu adin le'libun. It also needs libun. Fine. Rava says, wait a second, very nice, Chazak Baruch, but that also is not correct. Because whenever we say yagid alav reo, let's examine this together over here with ourselves. Yagid alav reo means, let me learn from its friend for him, right? That means you have to have one place that the halakha is mentioned properly, and then I could learn its friend from him. That's what yagid alav reo is. So therefore, says Rava, you have to add at least one of them that says libun and hagala, and then in the second one you could just tell me libun or hagala, one of them, and I will know with the reference, cross-referencing, that it's going to be not just libun or hagala, but it's going to be libun and hagala. Amar le Rava, ihachi litninhu lekulhu. Bechada, you should tell me both of these methodologies of hechsher, aka libun plus hagala, in one of the cases, either in Giule Ovet Kochavim, in Ayin He Amud Bet, in Mesechet Avodah Zarah, or in Zvachim and Kochim, in Mesechet Zvachim, Lav Tzadi Zayin, and then the other one, you should just reference it to the other. Velema Yagid Alav Reo, and then you could say, let its friend teach on him. So therefore, Rava says that's also not going to hold. Ela Amar Rava says, and he revises his answer, and he says, Kochim hainu ta'amaihu, ked Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Baravuham. Kochim is different, just like Rav Nachman said in the name of Rabba Baravuham, the Amar Kol Yom Vayom Naaseh Gi'ul Lechavero. You know why Kochim is sufficient with Hagala? You know why? Because you are going through a constant process of Hagala. Constant process of Hechsher. How so? You shecht a shlamim today. Let's imagine right now you're shechting at 6:30, 6:20 a.m. You're shechting shlamim. Fine. Tomorrow morning, when you shecht the next shlamim, right? is it still asur, the taste of the shlamim from yesterday? No, it's not. Because we mentioned before, right, in the beginning of the shiur, the shlamim is shnei yamim velayla echad, right? 2 full days and the night in between. So if I shechted yesterday at 6 a.m., right, I have the whole day yesterday, the night last night, and today the whole day. So when this morning I shech the next shlamim, my vessel is still good. Correct? So therefore, now that I put it through fire, right, this shvudim v'askelaot, I put it through fire, the fire that I put it through, it's a hechsher for yesterday's. It hasn't become asur yet, right? So therefore it's good. Every day I'm kosherizing this before it becomes asur. What's the obvious question, by the way?
Is it heated up enough?
The obvious question is
it heated up enough?
That's a good thing. Assuming that it is, of course. But the question is, so if you're saying that it never became asur, why do you need hagala? The Mishnah in Zvachim says, well, you know, how do you deal with this shvudim v'askelaot? You need to do hagala. If you never became notar, why do you need hagala altogether? Right? That would be the obvious, like, elephant in the room question. The Gemara is going to ask it. So they shouldn't be bothered and not follow the rest of the discussion until he asks it. The Gemara is going to ask in a few lines. Right? That's the obvious question. Says Rava, based on this, Rabua, that the leniency applicable in the Mishkan, in the Mikdash, is because it's constantly being kosherized. So therefore, you don't let it become notar, because tomorrow when you put it on fire, it already kosherized as yesterday's before the today's is going to be there. So therefore, you're good to go. So says the Gemara, fine. Tenach shlamim. I understand if you're talking about shlamim, as we just gave an example, because shlamim you have shnei yamim v'layla echad. You have 2 days and 1 night. So yes, tomorrow before you use the shvudim v'askelaot, it already has become kasher. It never became notar. It never became asur yet. The kevan the shnei yamim mitachli, because you have 2 days to eat them. Mikame derevu notar kavi giul. Before he ever becomes notar, you already took care of the bliot. With the next fire, you took care of them. Ela chatat, but says Gemara, how about chatat? If you bring, you are roasting some basar chatat over there, as we mentioned in the beginning of the shiur. Chatat is what? The timeline is leyom velayla echad. Is today, the rest of the day until night, and the night until the morning. So tomorrow morning, when you open the Levim, open the doors of the Beit HaMikdash, this grill is already treif, because it already became notar, right? And al maladaber, finished. So says the Gemara, ela chatat kevan de yom velayla mitachla. It's only yom velayla ki mebashel ba'idna. Today, even early morning, when you're coming to cook again, have a notar, it's already treif, it's already notar. So how do you deal with that? Says the Gemara, ki hadar mebashel ba ha'idna, ki hadar mebashel ba lemachar, o shlamim, o chatat, kapalit notar de chatat, the ha'idna bechatat v'shlamim the lemachar. Says the Gemara, the problem is when you are making chatat right now, today on a Sunday, tomorrow on a Monday when you're coming to have chatat or shlamim, already is the taste of the chatat of yesterday, which became already notar, and that is being niflat, is entering, is penetrating the korban of tomorrow, and the whole thing is asur, because you never had hechsher. So says the Gemara, Amri lo sricha dechi mebashel ba chatat ha'idna hadar mebashel ba ha'idna shlamim. The Gemara says Kohanim are zrizim. The Kohanim are very mindful of these things. They don't want to treif up the grill. So what they do is, when they use the grill for making chatat, right afterwards, the same day, they also bring Zarah al-Chaya, whatever it is of Shlamim, they put it on, and they make it. So now you had Giul, you already had a Plita, you had the Hechsher of Chatat. The Chatat went out, Shlamim came in, so therefore tomorrow you still have time. They would never let it become Notar. So Gemara says, the Kohanim, well, you think the Kohanim don't know these halachot. Kohanim are very smart, and they are zirizim, so they're careful. Say, oh, this grill is going to become taref tomorrow morning, so let's bring some shlamim, put it on, you're going to be good. So says the Gemara, fine. If you do that, then what happens is, the chatat de lemachar v'shelamim de etmol behadeh hadadi kashalim zimnayu, because when you do the chatat tomorrow, you still have the same time until the night for shlamim of yesterday, and therefore v'hadar mebasher shlamim de lemachar, you have the shlamim of the tomorrow on it, and it will be fine. So the Gemara now asks the obvious question that we mentioned. The Gemara says, wait a second. So you're telling me that they were always careful in the Mikdash to do this process and make sure it never becomes notar. Hazaku baruch. I have nothing against that. But then, what's the whole problem? Why does Mishnah say in Mesechet Zvachim that you need Hagala? You don't need Hagala for what? You didn't ever let it become notar. Yachi Hagala nami lo libai. You shouldn't need Hagala either. The Gemara says kasha. Good question. That's it. Good question means, by the way, I mean, Gemara is not going to answer it. But kasha, as we mentioned many times, kasha means I could give an answer, but it's a good question. It's not as strong a question as tiyufta, right? Tiyufta means this is a bomb kasha, right? It's an ironclad question. It's like, but kasha means it's a good question. I can answer it. Now, for instance, the Rishonim already, the Rashba asks the question, why doesn't the Gemara just answer a simple answer? Say, you don't always have shlamim. Shlamim is for when the Baalim bring shlamim. Can you go one day without anyone bringing shlamim? It's like, when there's recession in the community, it's like, no, yeah. So the Gemara could have said, why wouldn't the Gemara just say, well, that's talking about a case that someone brought chatat, no one brought shlamim afterwards, and now you have to do agala, right? The Ramban actually says something more powerful. The Ramban says, well, you always need Hagala. Why? Because of a very simple reason. Think about it. If I bring, let's call it Shlamim today, right? Shlamim, you have 2 days, nice. So I brought Shlamim today. On a Sunday morning, I brought Shlamim. And then tomorrow on Monday, I want to bring Shlamim again. So according to what we have learned, everything is very nice. Says Rambam, wait a second. If I have the taste of the shlamim from yesterday entering my shlamim today, because that's what's in the grill right now, right? So what happens with my shlamim right now? When today hits the night, what happens? Now my shlamim from today is gone. I can't eat the meat. Why? Because he has the taste of the shlamim from yesterday, which time pattern of its eating just ended. You follow it? So says the Ramban, l'chora, you always should need Hagala over here, right? So this is a gishmak topic. We're not going to get more into the meat of this, pun intended, but that's going to be. We're just going to leave it as that. Says the Gemara, kasha. It's a question. Fine. Now the Gemara said, we're out of time. We're going to leave this possession. We're going to pick it up tomorrow.
How does Hagala take care of the